Everyone likes playing video games, but have you ever had the dream of making your own games? You came to the right place. In this video, I will show you ways for you to get into making your own games. Before we get into the video, be sure to like and subscribe for more game development related content. I'll start out by telling you a little bit about how I myself started making games. Now, I'm no professional, I'm just a student studying what I love. The first experience in game dev I had was in Little Big Planet. It's a game series which is highly based on your own creativity. There is a story, but the thing that takes the spotlight is the level creation. You can create your levels and publish them for others to play. In my opinion, the game teaches you a lot about game design. Now, after a few years, I started making games in Unity. I heard about it and was excited that there are tools around that help you build your own games. My development started out as only copying tutorials word to word, and eventually I started to learn what I was copying. Now, this is a valid way for you to learn developing games, but I myself don't think of it as the best way. This way, you first learn the tools and then learn the way you should use them. And in my opinion, it's not that great of a way to learn. A great starting point that I don't see mentioned much is to play games. It may sound a bit wacky, but listen to me here. When you play games, try to think about the way they do things. When playing, for example, a first-person shooter game, think about the way you kill an enemy. You shoot by pressing a button. What happens when the bullet hits your enemy? It detects that it hits the enemy and causes something to happen that deals damage to the enemy. Now, this might not be how every FPS works exactly, but it's a broad explanation. What I'm trying to get to here is that you can learn a lot about games just by thinking about what's happening behind the scenes. There are games that explain these things directly to you, like the aforementioned Little Big Planet and the Mario Maker series, and I can make a video about them if you're interested. Tell me in the comments. Now, that's only analyzing other games, and you want to make your own game. My advice for you is not to be too ambitious. Start out by designing stuff on paper. Maybe draw levels for a platformer. Think about what you've learned by playing games and use that knowledge on making them. At this point, you may not have the best knowledge about the technical stuff behind games, but eventually you will. Try playing with playing cards. With playing cards, you already have a great toolset. 52 cards with specific numbers, 4 suits, and possibly chokers. Think about what you can do with them and what kind of rules you can make. Games in their most fundamental form are all about limitations and rules. You can try molding an already existing game into your own game in your mind. Try making a tabletop game. Tabletop games aren't that far from video games. After doing these things for a while, you'll learn some fundamentals of making games, and this is a great way to lead you to making video games. There are a lot of tools for developers to help them make their games. Game engines like Unity or Game Maker Studio, for example. What engines are essentially applications that hand you the tools for making games. Engines might handle the hard work and make your developing journey much easier. They handle rendering and give you easier controls of the stuff behind your games. Now, most professional game engines still aren't easy to use. You still have to provide the logic behind your game. This can be done by scripting, was it code-based or visual scripting. You don't always have to know programming to make games, as many engines nowadays provide concrete visual scripting tools. In these tools, you have things called nodes that you can connect. For example, a node that triggers when something happens, connected to a node that does something. That's a simple way of explaining it, but I hope you're on track. A great starting place for making video games is Scratch. I highly suggest checking the engine out if you're new to making games. There are a lot of free tutorials and guides on the internet that help you learn the tools for making games, though you shouldn't just copy what they do in the tutorial into your own project. Try to really understand what it is that you're copying. Don't just take the code and paste it into a project. Try to think about what it does and how it affects your game. If your engine of choice is Unity, I highly suggest Brackeys, as they have a ton of great tutorials. If you chose Scratch, they have multiple different tutorials on their own YouTube channel. As I already said, there are plenty of free tutorials that fit almost every problem you might have, so study. Your first game shouldn't be too complicated. Don't try making something too big. Yes, I know, you want to make your own worlds and stories, but there will come the time you can do that. At this point, I suggest making small games, copies of games like Breakout or Tetris. Small-scale projects. It might get tedious, but the feeling of success is great. I myself enjoy the feeling I get seeing something I created working right in front of my eyes. Be proud of your projects. Even if they don't work at all, you created it, and you should be proud of it. If you absolutely despise making copies of other games, try making your own versions of them with a twist. Almost all games take some inspiration from others. Just don't get in the loop of starting projects and not finishing them. For many game devs, it's a great problem. Don't worry, I already made a video about that, and of ways of avoiding it. You'll find it in the description and in the top right corner of this video right now. Understand what you're capable of making and work around that. There will surely be problems that you can solve, but don't let them bring your project to an end. There are many communities that are eager to help you on your project. There are multiple communities on Reddit, for example r/gamedev and r/gamedesign. Don't be worried that you can't create art or music for your game. First of all, there are plenty of free assets made by people passionate about games on sites like OpenGameArt and itch.io. Second of all, your first game shouldn't be made for anyone else than you. Don't worry about how it looks or sounds. That's not the important part. The important part is that you made the game yourself. Games aren't just entertainment. They can show people things they never expected to see. Go make your games and never stop making them. I'll see you on the next video. Bye!